Then Dylan came along. Again, I was really lucky. I had an uneventful delivery, and I was home within 4 hours of delivering Dylan. And then a week later, I came crashing down. I didn't even know it was going to happen to me, but I became mentally unwell. Is that at the time I was labelled with acute postpartum psychosis. So we talk about postpartum depression. They labelled me as postpartum psychosis, which is essentially going on the higher side of mood. So you become really hyperactive, mind is all over the place. And I was labelled with this, and for anybody who's ever been labelled with that before, it's a horrible feeling.
Welcome to Real People, Real Results, Real Change, the podcast that's dedicated to helping real people develop real health and fitness in their lives. Real people like you, business owners, professionals, house husbands and housewives, and students. I'm Stefan, I'm a personal wellness coach at UFit Studio, and I'll be your host. This episode, I'm talking again with Dr Sunny Jutla, an emergency frontline medic for over 10 years. In this episode, we talk about mindset and developing ways to approach each day with fresh energy, as well as discussing Sunny's post-natal journey and the lessons it taught her about looking after her mental well-being and her emotional health. Sunny, thanks so much for joining me again for this episode. And what I really want to talk to you about today is something which we touched on last time a little bit, which was to do with mindset and, like, for example, you mentioned gratitude journaling. But I want to dig into that a lot more. So, in a sense, last time we were talking about becoming physically stronger and fitter. And what I'd like really to talk about today is becoming mentally stronger. And I know that's something that has been really important to you and a big part of your life in recent years. But let's tell me a little bit more about your gratitude journaling as the starting point, because I think that's fantastic. What does that look like for you?
Brilliant, thank you. So I've realised that the brain is a muscle and you have the ability to train it. And one way to train the mind is gratitude journaling. So what does that look like? So over the years, I've done lots of different forms of it. So when I was sort of early on into my personal journey, I used to do gratitude videos.
Okay.
So when I joined one of the challenges, every morning I'd wake up and I would record a video, and part of that video would be name one thing you're grateful for, or choose a word that describes the feeling you wish to create today. Then I would talk about 2 or 3 things that I'm hoping to do in a positive way today and how I'm going to make that happen. Then at the end of the day, I would either do a video or a post on Facebook in the closed group that we had, sort of reflecting on how I created that feeling and how did the day go and what was I grateful for. And that was powerful. And Coach Sam talks about it, but actually journaling in that manner, although you're not writing something down, but you're doing videos and you're committing to it in a group, is powerful. It's powerful because you are inspiring others, but you're learning from others at the same time. So over the course of years, I've done that, and I've still got each and every video on my phone. So it's a reminder of where I've come from. So that's one way I've done journaling. The other way I've done journaling is actually writing things down. So I have written down the feeling I'd wish to create and how the day has gone. And I've got about 4 or 5 journals that I mentioned in the previous podcast, and I still refer to them now. When do I refer to them? I refer to them when I'm struggling a little bit. When I am struggling to sometimes put myself first, I flick back to a journal and I think, where was I? What was I thinking? And it just refocuses me. Then the other type of journaling I do is a verbal type, which is I do that with my partner every evening, and we reflect, and we call it our reflective journal, which is we list or talk about at least 3 things that we're grateful for that we've done for each other. And for those of you who are in relationships or seeking a relationship, I think it's another powerful tool to help you grow together. So they're my main ways I journal.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Especially to do that with your partner. That's incredible. And so it sounds like that's something over time you've really developed that skill set, as it were. Because of course the thing about sort of gratitude journaling is about feeling it, right? Not doing it as a paper exercise. But it sounds like that was something that you embedded within, your sort of daily routine. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So the reflection with partner came from a wedding that I went to in July. And at the wedding, I remember we were in the church, and the priest actually said, it's really important to be grateful for each other. And it can be the simplest of things. It could be, thank you for washing the dishes, or, you know what, thank you for making me that cup of tea when I walk through the door. And when the priest said that, I thought, as of today, I'm going to make sure we do it every single day. And I can confidently say a day hasn't gone past since July that we haven't done that. And
Wow.
And it's powerful, guys. You must do it.
That's incredible. Amazing. So what else? So mindset is key, right? You often say that. I've heard you say that, right? And I know, obviously, so 7 years ago, right, you were pregnant with your son, Dylan, and weren't in the space that you're in now. Didn't have some of those tools, didn't have the same mindset, I guess. Do you want to talk us through a little bit of that journey, almost like the before, during, after sort of thing, of what that was like, but also where you are now? And I guess in some ways, like the tools that back then would have made a difference if you knew then what you knew now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than happy to talk about that. So 7 years ago, if I was to describe to you where I was, so 7 years ago, I was probably about 27, 28, and I was busy working in A&E, newly married, about to buy a house, lots going on, working all sorts of shift patterns, probably a lot worse than what I work right now, because as you work your way up, your working routine gets better. Really excited that I was pregnant, and I just took on so much. I still remember working up until just over 38 weeks pregnant, and at 38 weeks I was still working in high-paced environments within the emergency department. And at the time I was thinking, Sunny, keep working, because you can extend your annual leave, you can have more time on maternity leave, there were financial pressures, and the thought of gratitude journaling, for example, I didn't even know what that was back then.
Yeah.
At that time, I felt like I was ticking boxes, life boxes, work boxes. And I was really lucky. I had a plain sailing pregnancy. So from a medical point of view, I was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Then Dylan came along. Again, I was really lucky. I had an uneventful delivery, and I was home within 4 hours of delivering Dylan. And then a week later, I came crashing down. I didn't even know it was going to happen to me, but I became mentally unwell. When I look back, and even at the time, when the doctors were saying to me, you're unwell, I was adamant that I wasn't unwell mentally. But actually, now having been through it and knowing me as a person, I've realised that I was probably going through a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
At the time, and I'm happy to tell whoever's listening or watching this is that at the time I was labelled with acute postpartum psychosis. So we talk about postpartum depression. They labelled me as postpartum psychosis, which is essentially going on the higher side of mood. So you become really hyperactive, mind is all over the place. And I was labelled with this. And for anybody who's ever been labelled with that before, it's a horrible feeling. And I don't think it exists. I'm a doctor.
Right.
It doesn't. I'm pretty confident it doesn't. But what does exist is the mental impact on a new mother.
Yeah.
Nobody can prepare you for it. Each and every mother out there will know that they do not feel like themselves after they've given birth to a baby. And it's simple because you have hormonal changes, you have physical changes, you're tired, and the focus shifts. A lot of time it shifts away from you and it goes towards the baby.
Right.
So all that happened, and it led to a compulsory admission to hospital. And I was not allowed to leave the hospital for 28 days, despite me wanting to. And I went through a tribunal, almost won the tribunal, but I was so close to being discharged that they said to me, just stay in hospital for 28 days.
Yeah.
And I was with Dylan at the time. When I was in hospital, I had a lot of time to reflect, and I realised that I hadn't put myself first. And by not being able to do that, I lost control. And suddenly, the doctors were dictating my life, family were dictating, and me and Dylan were in the middle of it. But I used that opportunity to show myself that this is the worst it can get and I can never go back there again.
Right, yeah.
So although I'm incredibly grateful to the doctors and nurses for keeping me safe and Dylan safe, I vowed that from that day forward when I was discharged, I would never go back there again. Then the year after that was tricky, and this is where I met the UFIT coaches. I was really struggling to find my balance, and it's when I found the UFIT studio that I realised that I could work much, much better on my mindset, and that's when I learnt the art of gratitude, putting myself first, and how fitness, nutrition, mental well-being is all part of who you are as a person. I also realised, having been through that nobody really talks about it. And, you know, I think it's important to talk about it because, like I said, each and every mother goes through this in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to tackle it when we're in the depths of it.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So, and gratitude journaling was a part of that. What are some of the other things then that have played a part in building up your confidence, your mindset, putting yourself sort of first from that time onwards?
So I try to look for the positives in each situation. And for example, we choose a word for the day, or sometimes I choose a song. It's my ritual. Every morning I wake up and I think, you know, I'm going to find a new song for the day, and I'll play the song throughout the day. And I do that because it creates a feeling.
Yeah.
A feeling of excitement,
Right.
a feeling of happiness. But then I'll go to work. I'm in the depth of A&E and I have a critical case coming in, and then suddenly my heart's racing. And I flip back to, how did that song make me feel? I stop, I pause, I think about it, and I take that feeling into what I'm about to do.
Amazing.
And I think that's important. And, you know, the day doesn't always pan out the way it should. Something happens, right? And, you know, I'll suddenly have this stressful response. But then if I flip back and I think, how did I feel when I listened to that song?
Right.
Or when I chose that word? So that's a way I try to get myself out of a sticky situation on a daily basis. So that's one way to do it. And also, to those of you listening, don't be scared to ask for help. 7 years ago, I felt like I was taking on the whole world, and I was always thinking about how others would feel.
Right.
And now I've got an amazing supportive network around me. And actually, when you share the load, it makes things so much easier.
Yeah. That's such good advice. Absolutely. Okay. Where does so you've mentioned to me before juggling life missions. What is that, and how does it work?
Oh my God, life is a mission. Oh my gosh. So I have got a task list on my phone that spans over lots of different aspects of life. And actually, one of my many gratitude journals has got a lovely picture in there. In the middle is you, and then it's got spokes for parts of your life. So, for example, family relationship, family/relationships, finances, well-being, fitness, nutrition, hobbies.
Okay.
And my task list is a culmination of all those life missions. I call each spoke a mission. And juggling is really, really difficult sometimes, but the way I sort of juggle things is making lists.
Okay.
As I tick something off, though, something else gets there. But the feeling I get when I tick something off is amazing. So today I've already ticked off 3 things. And it doesn't matter if I don't get to the end of the task list, that is irrelevant. The fact that I've had the ability to tick something off is positive reinforcement. So that's how I juggle things nowadays, and I make sure things get done.
Okay, amazing. Amazing. And so more recently, obviously you've been digging into some other sort of things as well to support you. So what are you doing these days as well in terms of building your confidence and mindset? And you did some courses with me as well, right?
Yeah.
So just talk a little bit about that if you would.
Yeah, sure. So a new thing that I'm doing is I'm writing monthly blogs for our YouFit magazine. With your support, thank you very much.
It's very welcome.
And the reason I'm doing monthly blogs is because if I set myself a rule or a goal a couple of years ago, I said to myself, if I can inspire at least one person daily, then my job is done, is the way I look at it. And I'm hoping I do that at work, but the blogs are one way of me trying to inspire others to do things slightly differently, or if there's a tip I can give them via a blog, or even if it's just an enjoyment factor. If they've managed to take 5 minutes out in a day to read it, then that is it's a nice feeling.
Right.
And interestingly, I was on shift probably 2 weeks ago because I've just been on annual leave. And I got stopped in the corridor 2 or 3 times by my colleagues who said to me, "Oh, I got the YouFit magazine come through the door and I read your blog." Another colleague said, "I look forward to your blog every month." And so that's new thing that I'm doing. As well as inspiring others, though, it gives me a reflective opportunity. So we talked about juggling life missions. And actually, when I sit down to write it, I reflect at the same time. And I learn something new. So I'm doing that. Core transformation. So I did 2 courses with yourself, and I'm hoping to do more in the future. I learnt so much about myself. I always thought I needed to learn how to meditate, or I needed to learn how to think deeply, but it was always there, and it will always be there. And actually, you taught me a lot about the unconscious mind, or subconscious level. And I feel like I'm activating that level a lot more now. And it was brilliant. I've also met a lifelong friend who I'm sure will be watching this, who's also one of our YouFit members. So I just think that going to these courses opens up new doors. You just don't know who you're going to meet. And I've made a really, really, really amazing friendship that I will keep forever, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Okay, cool. So where are you at now in terms of your mindset, and what are the top tips you'd share with listeners?
Yeah, so my mindset is something that I am proud of, something that I'm always or consistently trying to maintain and grow. I try to look at things from a positive angle. When in difficulty, I'm trying my best to sort of use the tools that we've talked about along the way. Top tips: never stop learning. If you think you've found what works for you, that's brilliant, but always seek out other opportunities to sort of develop your mindset further, because when you're in a crisis, it's going to help you.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of journaling, make it part of your daily routine. Whether you want to talk to somebody, whether you want to write something down, whether you want to do a video for yourself or even a voice note, however you wish to use it, make sure you do it, because we talk about our senses. You can activate your senses in any way, but make sure you do it at least once a day, because it's really, really helpful. Also, when you are feeling a little bit low or not yourself, just dig deep and try to create a feeling or think back to something that made you feel good, and you can shift your day, and you're in control of your own emotions. So don't worry about the situation or whatever somebody's made you think or feel, because you can control that. You can transform your day yourself.
Amazing. Incredible advice. Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Sunny. Hope we get to do this again soon.
That's great. Thank you so much.